His late-night meetings were a lie, so I created one of my own. I sent him a picture of me in a candlelit hotel room with a man's hand on my waist. His furious calls went unanswered. When I finally picked up, I whispered, "Now you know how it feels." He shouted, "Come home, we can fix this." I laughed, "Oh, I'm home, just not yours." Then he heard a deep voice say, "She's busy." His reaction was priceless. I never imagined I'd be sharing this, but here I am, hoping my story resonates with someone out there. My name's Olivia, and I've been married to Daniel for 12 years. We met during our junior year at the University of Michigan. Both of us were business majors, often crossing paths in lectures and study groups. Our connection was immediate, blossoming from shared notes to late-night coffee dates at the local cafe near campus. After graduation, we tied the knot in a quaint ceremony in Ann Arbor, surrounded by family and friends. Daniel landed a promising role in finance, while I pursued a career in marketing. We settled into a comfortable life in Chicago, balancing our demanding jobs with weekend getaways and dreams of starting a family. Over the years, Daniel's career in finance demanded more of his time. Late-night meetings, business trips, and weekend conferences became the norm. I understood the pressures of his job, often reminding myself that we were building a future together. But as time went on, his absences grew longer, and his explanations became vaguer. He'd come home late, sometimes after midnight, with the faint scent of a new cologne I didn't recognize. When I asked about it, he'd dismiss it, saying a colleague had given him a sample, or he had walked through a department store. I wanted to believe him, so I did. Our intimacy began to wane. The passionate kisses turned into pecks on the cheek. Our deep conversations became surface-level exchanges about work and the weather. I felt a growing distance between us, but every time I tried to bridge the gap, he seemed preoccupied or too tired to engage. I started questioning myself, wondering if I was becoming paranoid or overly needy. One evening, after a particularly lonely day, I decided to surprise Daniel with dinner from his favorite Italian restaurant. I thought a spontaneous date night might rekindle some of our lost spark. I called ahead, picked up the food, and drove to his office downtown. The building was mostly dark, with only a few lights on. I approached the security desk, greeted by a middle-aged guard who looked up from his newspaper. "Hi, I'm here to see Daniel," I said, trying to mask my nervousness. The guard frowned, flipping through a logbook. "Daniel left about 2 hours ago, ma'am." I felt a cold wave wash over me. "Are you sure?" He told me he had a late meeting. He nodded. "Positive." I saw him leave myself. I thanked him and walked back to my car, the bag of food feeling heavier with each step. Sitting behind the wheel, I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror, searching for answers in my own eyes. Where could he be? Why would he lie? I drove around the city aimlessly, the untouched dinner growing cold beside me. Eventually, I went home, placing the food in the fridge and curling up on the couch, waiting for him. He came home around 1 a.m., looking surprised to see me awake. "Olivia, why are you up?" I forced a smile. "Couldn't sleep." "How was the meeting?" He hesitated, then said, "Exhausting. Let's talk in the morning." With that, he kissed my forehead and headed to the bedroom. I remained on the couch, staring at the ceiling, doubts gnawing at my heart. The following days were a blur of routine and forced smiles. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Daniel's phone became an extension of his hand. He guarded it fiercely, even taking it to the bathroom. Our conversations felt scripted, lacking the warmth they once held. I confided in my best friend, Rachel, over coffee one afternoon. She listened intently, her brow furrowed. "Liv, have you considered that he might be hiding something?" I sighed, stirring my latte. "I don't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe work is just stressful." Rachel reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is." That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I couldn't live in uncertainty any longer. If Daniel was hiding something, I needed to know. I waited until he announced another late meeting and left the house. After giving him a head start, I grabbed my keys and followed him. My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of fear and determination fueling me. He drove across town, eventually parking near a dimly lit bar. I watched from a distance as he entered. Minutes later, through the large front window, I saw him approach a woman seated at a corner booth. She stood to greet him, and they embraced, a lingering hug that spoke volumes. She was younger, with flowing auburn hair and a confident demeanor. They sat close, their heads inclined toward each other, sharing a bottle of wine. Laughter and subtle touches punctuated their conversation. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. Tears blurred my vision as I fumbled for my phone, snapping a few photos through the window. Evidence. Proof that my suspicions weren't unfounded. I drove home in a daze, the images burned into my mind. Once inside, I collapsed onto the bed, sobbing until exhaustion took over. The next morning, I didn't say anything. I made coffee like I always did. Sat at the table. Pretended I hadn't watched my husband wrap his arms around another woman. Pretended I hadn't seen the way he leaned into her, the way he smiled at her, like he used to smile at me. Daniel came into the kitchen looking tired, rubbing his eyes. "Morning," he mumbled. I forced a smile. "Morning. Long night?" He nodded and poured himself coffee, not even glancing at me. "Yeah. Lots of numbers. I'm drained." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the cup at the wall. But instead, I sipped quietly. Watched him. Took notes in my head, how easy the lies came to him, how calm he was. Like none of this was wrong. That day, something in me broke. Or maybe it woke up. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to show him how it felt. I called James. James was my coworker. Tall, kind, and quiet. We'd always gotten along, even joked around, but it had never been anything more than friendly. Still, I knew I could trust him. I told him everything, what I'd seen, how I felt, what I wanted to do. He didn't hesitate. "Whatever you need, Olivia. I'm in." I booked the room at the Langham. Got the suite with the skyline view, the one that always looked like it belonged in a magazine. I went shopping. I bought the black dress Daniel used to love, the one with the slit on the side, low back. He hadn't complimented me in months, maybe longer. I wore it anyway. When the day came, I did my hair, my makeup, put on perfume. James showed up in a black button-down and slacks, holding a bottle of wine. He looked sharp. Like the kind of man a woman would choose. I felt powerful. We lit candles. Set the phone up on the nightstand. Took the photo, his hand low on my waist, mine resting on his shoulder. I looked right into the camera. Cold. Calm. And I sent it. It took less than 30 seconds for my phone to light up. First, a text, "Olivia, what the hell is this?" Then the call started. I didn't answer. More texts came in. "Where are you? Who is that? Answer me now." I put the phone on silent and poured myself a glass of wine. An hour later, I finally picked up. He sounded frantic. "Olivia, please. What is going on?" I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, "Now you know how it feels." There was silence. Then he shouted, "Come home. We can fix this." I laughed. "For real?" "Oh, I'm home, just not yours." That's when James leaned in and said clearly, "She's busy." Daniel lost it. He yelled something, but I hung up before he could finish. Tossed the phone on the bed and looked out the window at the skyline. I didn't feel better. Not yet. But I felt different. It wasn't over, though. The next morning, I woke up to pounding on my apartment door. I froze. James had already left early that morning. I wasn't expecting anyone. The pounding came again, louder this time. I looked through the peephole. It was Daniel. He looked like he hadn't slept. Hair messy. Still in the same shirt as the night before. He didn't even bring flowers, just stood there, eyes wild. I cracked the door open an inch. "What do you want?" I asked. He tried to push in, but I blocked it with my foot. "Olivia, please. Let's talk. We need to talk." "You had a whole year to talk," I snapped. He ran his hands through his hair. It didn't mean anything. I was just lost. But we can get through this. I love you. I laughed again, bitter this time. Do you even remember what loving someone feels like? He didn't answer. Instead, he said, "Is it serious?" With that guy. That guy. I opened the door a little more. You mean James? No, but he's decent. Honest. Shows up when he says he will. That alone makes him more of a man than you. Daniel looked like he'd been slapped. I messed up, okay? He said, almost whispering now. I made a mistake. But what you did, it's worse. You meant for me to see it. I leaned against the door frame. Exactly. That's when he did something unexpected. He dropped to his knees. Please, Liv. I'll do anything. Just don't leave me. I froze. Because for a second, a short, flickering second, I felt bad for him. But then I remembered that cold night in the car. The smell of her perfume on him. The empty bed. The lies. I closed the door without another word. That night, he sent me flowers. Dozens. They filled the hallway. Neighbors asked if I'd won the lottery or something. I ignored them. Then came the emails. The messages from his mom. The voice notes. But here's the twist. 3 days after the hotel photo, I got a DM on Instagram. From the woman in the bar. Her name was Sophie. She said she didn't know he was married. She'd found out from the photo I sent. She'd followed me out of curiosity. And then she told me something I wasn't expecting. I'm pregnant. I stared at the screen for a long time. Pregnant. That wasn't part of my plan. Now what? Should I reply? Or blow it all up? Let me know what you think I should do. I didn't answer Sophie's message right away. I sat with it for hours, rereading the words. I'm pregnant. Just those two. No emojis. No drama. Just the quiet weight of a secret that was no longer mine alone. Daniel had gotten his affair partner pregnant. I stared out the window at the cold Chicago skyline, trying to keep myself from throwing my phone across the room. I wasn't shocked deep down. I always knew it was more than just emotional or just dinner with that girl. But this was a whole other level. I finally replied. When did you find out? She answered a few minutes later. This week. I confronted him yesterday. He told me he was going to handle it. Then he ghosted me. Of course he did. Coward. I took a deep breath and typed again. He told me nothing. I only found out about you when I followed him. Jesus, she wrote. I'm sorry. I didn't know what to say to that. What do you say to the woman carrying your husband's child? Later that night, I got a call from an unknown number. It was her again, Sophie. Her voice was shaking. I don't know why I'm calling, but I don't know anyone else. And I'm scared. She told me more than I wanted to know. She and Daniel had been seeing each other for almost 8 months. He told her he was separated, that we were living apart, figuring things out. She said he took her to places we used to go. The steakhouse by the river. The jazz bar in Old Town. He even gave her a necklace that looked just like the one he bought me on our 5th anniversary. My stomach turned. Then she dropped another bomb. I think I'm not the only one, she whispered. What do you mean? She told me that she'd seen another woman's name pop up on his phone a few times. Not a coworker. Not a friend. Just a name she didn't recognize, and every time she asked, he brushed it off. She hadn't thought much of it, until now. I had no reason to doubt her. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I opened Daniel's laptop. He'd left it in my apartment by mistake, during one of his many attempts to fix things and come crawling back. He was logged into everything, emails, cloud storage, synced messages. The whole mess. And what I found was even worse than I imagined. Not just one affair. Not just Sophie. There were at least 3 different women. Some casual, some repeat visits. Flirty messages. Late-night pictures. Promises. Lies. Hotel receipts. One girl had even sent him a video of herself in the very same hotel room he and I had stayed in for our anniversary 2 years ago. I scrolled in silence, numb. The man who told me he was working late was living another life right under my nose, and he didn't even bother hiding it well. I printed out everything. Every text, Every receipt, every date and time. Then I mailed it all to his office in a big brown envelope. No note. No return address. Just facts. I didn't care about the fallout. I wasn't protecting him anymore. The next twist came a few days later when I ran into Rachel, my best friend, at our usual cafe. She looked pale, her face tight. I waved, but she didn't wave back right away. When she finally sat down, she avoided eye contact. Then she blurted it out. "Olivia, I have to tell you something." My heart dropped. "No. No way. I didn't sleep with him," she said quickly, as if reading my mind. "But he tried. Twice." I stared at her, jaw tight. "When?" I asked. She looked down. "Last spring. And again, maybe 2 months ago." That would have been right around the time I started noticing his behavior changing. She said he invited her out, got drunk, and tried to kiss her in the car. She pushed him away both times, told him he was out of line. But she never told me because she didn't want to ruin things. I stood up and left her at the table. I didn't say a word. I didn't have the energy. I thought I'd already found all the broken pieces of my life, but there were more. Hiding under people I thought I could trust. Now it's not just about revenge. Not just about hurt. It's about starting from scratch. Finding out who I am outside of him, outside of all the lies and damage. I still don't know what to do about Sophie. Or the baby. But I know one thing. I'll never let a man like Daniel write the rest of my story. Not again. And I'm not done yet. The confrontation didn't happen in private. It exploded in public, in a place where I never expected to see Daniel again. My building had this monthly residence mixer, wine, snacks, live music in the lounge downstairs. I never went, but this time, something told me to show up. Maybe I wanted to be seen. Maybe I wanted to prove to myself that I was more than a scorned wife hiding in her apartment. So I went. I wore a crimson wrap dress. Simple but powerful. The kind of color you wear when you've bled enough and don't plan to again. James was with me. Not as a date, not really, but as someone who understood the whole messy truth. He'd become a quiet constant in all the chaos. We stood near the wine table, chatting with some neighbors when I heard the doors open and felt my stomach twist. Daniel walked in. I don't know if he meant to crash it or if he thought I'd be alone. Maybe he thought showing up would win me back somehow. A grand gesture. But then he saw James next to me, hand resting lightly on my back. He came straight toward us. People started watching. Conversations dropped to whispers. "Olivia," he said sharply. "Can we talk?" I didn't move. "We're talking." Alone. James stepped back, silent, but I didn't leave the room. I didn't owe him secrecy anymore. He glanced around, realizing people were paying attention. He lowered his voice. "You sent everything to my job. What the hell is wrong with you?" I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the truth?" He clenched his jaw. "You ruined me." "No," I said, steady. "You ruined yourself." I just told the story. He took a step closer, voice rising. "You're trying to destroy me. And now you're parading around with him?" He pointed at James like a jealous teenager. That's when Sophie walked in. I hadn't invited her. I hadn't seen her since the message. But there she was, in jeans and a sweater, holding a manila envelope and a sonogram photo peeking out the top. The room fell silent. She walked straight up to Daniel, calm but shaking. She held up the photo. "You said we'd figure this out. You said you'd be there." Daniel looked like he'd been punched in the throat. I watched him struggle for words. His hands trembled. I just need time," he stammered. "You had time," I said. 12 years. Sophie's voice cracked. "He told me you were divorced." There it was. A dozen people now circled us, pretending not to listen, but hanging on to every word. Daniel's face went red. "This isn't the place." "No, this is exactly the place," I cut in. "Because I've spent the last year making excuses for you. In private. While you were building a whole second life." He opened his mouth, but I didn't stop. "You lied to her. You lied to me. You used my best friend. You played everyone like it was your right." Then Rachel stepped forward. She'd been at the event too. I hadn't noticed her in the crowd until she stepped out of it, face pale, eyes wide. "Olivia," she said quietly. I didn't know she was pregnant. I looked at her. "You shouldn't have known anything. But you did. And you kept his secret." She looked like she wanted to cry, but I didn't care. Daniel stepped between us. "Enough. You want to shame me? Fine. You win. You're perfect, Olivia. You always were. But maybe that's the problem. No one can live up to you." Gasps spread through the room. I stared at him, heart pounding. "You cheated because I was too good?" I said. "That's your defense?" Silence. "I gave you everything," I whispered. "And you still looked for less." Daniel turned to leave. Sophie followed him halfway, then stopped. She turned back and handed me the envelope she'd brought. "I thought you should see this," she said quietly. "Just in case you ever doubt you did the right thing." Inside were letters. Love notes. Things Daniel had written to her. Some dated while we were still celebrating our anniversary. I took them without a word. He left the party alone. Sophie sat on the couch, shell-shocked. Rachel left quietly. James walked me home. We didn't speak much, just held hands in the elevator. That night, I curled up on the couch with a blanket, the letters on the coffee table. I didn't read them. I didn't need to. I'd already lived the worst parts. In the days that followed, everything unraveled. Daniel got suspended from work for personal conduct. Word spread through our old friend circles. People stopped calling, unsure what to say. Some sent texts like, "Did that really happen?" Others stayed silent. Rachel reached out twice. I never replied. Sophie chose to keep the baby. She moved back in with her parents in Indiana. We exchanged a few messages after that. I wished her well. Told her she deserved better. She said the same to me. Daniel sent me one last message. "I miss the life we had. I miss you." I didn't answer. Because I missed myself more. The woman I used to be before his lies made her question everything. The divorce went through a month later. Clean break. No kids, no shared property left. Just 2 signatures and 12 years turned into a file folder. I stood outside the courthouse alone and felt free. Not happy. Not yet. But free. And that's something. I don't know what comes next. I'm not jumping into anything. James and I still talk, sometimes grab coffee. He says he's proud of me. I believe him. Here's what I know now. Loyalty without honesty is just self-betrayal. And loving someone who doesn't respect you isn't love, it's survival. I'm done surviving. From now on, I live. One truth at a time.